Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome and good morning for this first webinar which we will be delivering today. Sanchit, I hope I am audible and visible at the same
Yes,
time.
Pavan, you are audible and visible.
Good. So, are we good to go? Should I share my screen?
Yeah, I think we can go ahead.
Good, guys. So, myself, Pawan Nigam, I will be your host today, and Sanchit will be my coordinator today. So, if you have any questions or comments, please post it in your chat box, and Sanchit can then take it later at the end of the presentation. So, yeah, let's share the presentation. Okay, I hope my screen is visible, Sanchit, and please let me know the.
Yeah, it's visible.
I'm sorry. Okay, good to go. So, yeah, welcome again. Good morning. Today's webinar is all about basics of anchor design and how we can do
Yeah,
it in
sorry,
our.
Pavan. I think the screen is not in the presentation mode. Slideshow
It's
mode, I
not
mean.
in the. It's what can you see?
I can see the
Is
slides.
it presenter view or what?
No, it's not a presenter view. I can see the slides, and on the left there are multiple slides. It's not a slideshow mode, basically.
Okay, let me share it again. Is it okay now?
No, it's the same.
Okay, let me try it again. Sorry for the technical glitch. This should not happen, I believe. What can you see now, Sanchit?
It's still the same, actually. It's not the slideshow mode.
Okay, why it is happening? I believe it's okay now.
Actually, it's still the same. I think there is some glitch from the software's end. I think we can just zoom a bit and continue for now.
Let me try once again. If it is not working, then we will move ahead with the same. I hope it's
Yeah,
okay
now it's
now.
working. Yeah, it's absolutely fine.
Perfect. So yeah, sorry for the technical glitch. So in the today's webinar, we will be covering a few basic aspects of anchoring application. Then we will also talk about how to select the right anchor, what all are the evaluation parameters for a post-installed anchor. Then we will talk about the connection design using this post-installed anchor, and then I will take you to the PROFIS Engineering page. I'll show you how to gain the access of the software, and I will also give one small demonstration how to use the software by selecting the right design guidelines. And then we will have a 10 minutes question answer slot at the end of the presentation. So to begin with, let me introduce first Hilti, what Hilti is. So we started in 1941 in a country known as Principality of Liechtenstein. It's a very small country situated in Europe, right? Globally, we do almost around 6 billion sales with a global workforce of around 32,000 people. We are present in more than 120 countries, and it's a family-owned business which we have, right? To In order to make sure that whatever we do the R&D, we are able to give that benefit to the customers directly. Now, talking about the manufacturing locations, so we are well spread across the globe. We have different manufacturing facilities and the R&D centers, which is situated across the globe, wherever we are present. Then talking about the business where the Hilti operates, so it starts with engineering. So we have a very strong engineering team across the globe again, which provides a lot of design services for post-installed anchors, rebar, fire, passive fire protection. We do also provide the software for designing all these things. Then we have a measuring system where you can have distance measurement, leveling, aligning tool. We have rebar scanners also in the portfolio to identify the safe drilling areas and to identify the diameter of the reinforcement behind the concrete. In drilling and demolition, we have class leading products with the different diameter range for the drill machines and different impact energy based on the braking needs. We have different breakers in our portfolio. Talking about cutting and grinding, so in our portfolio we have big wire saws and wall saws. If you want to cut anything in the concrete without actually damaging or creating vibration in the surrounding area, then you can use this particular technology to cut this concrete in a very smooth, nice, clear fashion. Then, of course, we are very much present in anchor fasteners. So we have a lot of chemical anchors, mechanical anchors, direct fastening anchors, and screw anchors also in the portfolio. Depending upon the application, we can select the right product. Then we also have our strong footprint in passive fire protection system as well. So in today's world, it's also very important to save all these buildings which we have created from fire hazards, right? So we have a portfolio which can help making the building properly compartment and make sure that the fire stays in the room of origin. It should not spread from one room to another. Talking about the services, we provide the repair services for all our tools which we sell in the market. We give lifetime warranty on the defects, manufacturing defects. We give the delivery services, and we also do give the training and consultancy at the job site on how to use our product in an effective and most productive way. With this, let's now jump to the topic of discussion today, which is steel to concrete connection. Now, when you talk about this connection, there are various methods through which you can actually fix these steel base plate with the concrete existing concrete member, right? But in the today's discussion, we will only focus on post-install mechanical anchor and post-install chemical anchor, because Hilti is widely known for these post-install anchors only. Yeah. Now, talking about post-install anchor, what is the advantage of using this thing is it gives you very much flexibility in terms of installing the anchors anywhere in the concrete surface wherever you want, based on the design need of a building, right? You don't have to worry about the misplacement of the bolts, or let's say misplacement of the casting plate. It's very precise. The installation is also very fast, right? So you can within 1 hour or so you can actually uh, install your base plate and erect your structure. If you are using a mechanical anchor, it is almost instant, right? And the technology is also well established in the market, and we have a lot of references, approvals, and certificates to establish this particular technology in market. Now, talking about the different connections which you can find at the job site, we can actually categorize into three buckets. I'm sorry for this. Okay, we can categorize into. Just hold on, Sanchit. Let me mute this. Otherwise, this will keep on disturbing us.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect. So make it long. Let me go back. Extremely sorry for this. I had to mute it, otherwise it will disturb us again and again. Yeah, so I hope the screen is visible again, Sanchit. It's good.
Yeah, it's visible. It's visible.
Okay, so we can categorize these connection into three different types, which is primary, secondary, and temporary. So based on the criticality of the application, we can also segregate these connection based on the design need. So if we talk about primary connection, these are very critical in nature because they take the entire structural load and transfer it to the concrete footing or your D walls or your retaining walls, whichever you have created. So it's very important for us to design those connections because the failure in these connections can lead to catastrophic effect on the safety of the structure and the people who are actually using that particular building. Talking about the secondary connection, these are not part of the primary structure, but they are at the same time very critical because let's say if there is a canopy which is fixed, it is not a part of main structure, but at the same time, if this canopy fails, it can lead to the life safety of the person who are actually using that thing. Similarly, these staircase, balconies, mezzanine floors, these are not part of primary structure, but then they are also equally important to be designed. Then the third category is temporary connection, such as your earth retaining structure, the support structure which you are fixing for the EOT cranes which we are using nowadays. Then there are certain scaffoldings and shutterings also which we fix to support the structure for a temporary basis. These connection can also be critical at the same time because many a times they are also holding the structure together. Like these Whaler beams, they are actually supporting the D wall from collapsing inside. So although they are temporary in nature, but at the same time they are also critical to be designed. So that's the reason. I mean, if you categorize all these connections, there are certain connections which are high on safety, and it is very important to design those connections, such as your main steel beams, your machine foundations, your canopies, then your all your non-structural elements like facade, stone cladding, or let's say your MEP supports, which are hanged from the slab, right? So they are also, I mean, they are not part of your main structure, but then at the same time they are also critical because if they fail, they can hamper the safety of the people who are occupying that particular building. So these are also very important to design. Now when we talk about design, what are the steps involved in designing a post-install connection? The first step is the selection of the right product, right? By right product, I mean the product should have the qualification to be used as a post-installed anchor, right? The second step in this is design based on the guidelines which are available in the market, which actually take references from these testing data. And the third step, which is also very critical, is the application or the execution at the job site. Because if you select right product, you do the right design, but if you are not installing the product in the right way, then all your efforts will go in vain, right? So let's start with step one, and let's see why it is important for any product to qualify and get the qualification certification, right? So talking about the qualification, it also based on the design method which you want to use. Let's say if you want to use European guidelines for designing the anchor, then for us EAD or European assessment document are the relevant documents for testing the product. But on the other hand, if you are using ACI, then for testing the product, ACI 3552 or 3552.4 are the right testing criteria for the product, right? So based on the nature of the product, the testing guidelines differs. So for mechanical and chemical anchor, we have EAD 330499. Previously, it used to be ETAG 001. And if you talk about American standard, we have ACI 355.2 and point 4 for mechanical and chemical anchor respectively. And then on the other hand, if you talk about rebar, then EAD 330087 is the qualifying criteria, and ICC AC 308 is the qualifying criteria if you talk about ACI standard, right? Similar guidelines are also available for other cast-in product, but today we are not talking about cast-in. So that's the reason we will not focus on that. So what happens is your product goes to testing based on these testing assessment standards, and then the product gets the approval to be used for post install connection. Now, why testing is important? The main reason for testing is all the products, if we talk about mechanical anchor, chemical anchor, the bond strength, or let's say the friction capacity of the anchor, you cannot calculate based on some formulas, right? You need a testing to make sure, or to find out the actual capacity of the anchor in the actual working environment. Let's say if we talk about mechanical anchor, at how much embedment depth this anchor can give a certain load. What should be the expansion of the sleeve? This we cannot measure based on some scientific formula. We need to do the testing to find out the actual capacity and the behavior of this anchor. Similar things happens in the chemical. The bond strength which you have which you want to find out, bond stresses rather, that you can only find out by doing the testings and the assessment on the product. Now, apart from these two, what all things assessment document also does is they talk about the installation conditions, such as the spacing between two anchors, edge distance from the anchors, the thickness of the base material, grade of the base material, and the oldness and newness of the particular base material. Apart from that, they also talk about the installation. Let's say if you are using a new drill bit, what will happen? Because the new drill bit will give you a bigger borehole diameter, whereas the old drill bit will give you a smaller borehole diameter. So what will be the impact, right? So that variable effect also is being considered and being tested in these test documents. Similarly, if you talk about mechanical anchor, what will happen if you over torque it? What will happen if you under torque it? Then what will happen if the anchor is installed at the area where the crack is already there? So these are the conditions which these assessment document talks about, and the testings are also done based on these criteria. Apart from that, there are certain other criteria also, such as seismic, fatigue, and fire. So these documents also talk about the testing of these extra conditions as well. Yeah. Now, someone can say that I can do the pull-out test at the job site, and then I can see whether the product is qualifying or not. So my suggestion or my explanation to this is, yes, you can do the pull-out test at the job site. Yeah, but the pull-out at the job site, there is a difference between the approval and that. When you talk about approval, they talk about the different condition, as I mentioned in my previous slide, and they do the testing on those different conditions. Then they also talk about the consistency of the product. The ultimate load of different product might be the same, but what about the displacement? That you cannot measure at the job site. Those things are measured while doing these kind of approval. Then the four most important thing is the quality of the product. You cannot make sure of the quality of the product at the job site. These quality are to be ensured by the manufacturer at the manufacturing facility itself, and the approval and the assessment bodies make sure that the quality of the product is intact, and the certification are given based on that. And then you also have regular Q and QC checks, where you send certain batch of the product for testing so that the approvals are intact. All these things you cannot do at the job site. So the testing which we do at the job site can only tell you whether the workmanship done to install the anchor is right or not, right? Except that, you will not be able to get anything out of it. Now, apart from that, what other things are covered, right? So as I said, it talks about the admissible service condition. I mean, the expected service condition of an anchor when it is subject to single anchor, in tension or shear or anchor group, and it talks about the minimum edge and spacing. It also talks about the serviceability test, right? That means evaluation of the anchor in the extreme conditions. For example, single anchor is subjected to high strength concrete in hammer drilled hole with minimum tolerance range, right? For example, performance of anchor when subjected to heat loads. Those things we can only do in the laboratories. That thing cannot be done at the job site. Similarly, if you talk about ACI, the similar kind of tests are done on ACI standards as well. They do the identification test, reference test, reliability and service condition test to give you the certificate for that particular product. Yeah, and then apart from that, there are certain other documents also, which is many a times very important when you talk about the entire service life of that particular connection. We are not designing the connection for, let's say, 1 day or 2 day. Many a times these connections last for 50 years and more than that, right? During that entire lifespan, the anchors are subjected to different environmental conditions like corrosion, right? For certain project, you might need the LEED certification also. It should not have volatile content. Then the product should also be tested for long term age testing. It should be tested for water tightness. Yeah, let's say in case of chemical anchor, it becomes very important that your product should not allow water seepage inside the concrete through the product itself, right? So that testing is also done. Then fire resistance, product certification, chemical resistance, electrical conductivity, all these tests are also needed for a product to get qualification for to be used as a safe alternative of a cast in anchor, right? Now, why design is important? Now, this we are now moving to the second step of the complete process. When we talk about design, right? Imagine a situation that there is a connection which is to be done at the job site, and the engineer has just simply made this kind of sketch on the drawing, and this just mentioned the anchor fastener. What will happen if these kind of drawing goes at the job site? The labor or the contractor who are working at the job site doesn't understand about these things, right? They don't know what will be the number of anchors, what will be the diameter, right? What will be the edge distance, what will be the grade of the steel of the anchor, right, which they have to use, what will be the embedment depth, whether they have to use chemical anchor, mechanical anchor, what will be the spacing, the diameter of the drill hole. All these questions will be there in the mind of the contractor, but there is no answer to it. Why? Because in the drawing there is nothing mentioned. They just have mentioned anchor fastener. From designer point of view, we have given the recommendation, but this recommendation is not useful for the contractor because there are so many questions which are unanswered. So what will happen if these kind of connection is left on the will of the contractor, right? So these kind of connection will fail eventually. It might not fail in 3-4 years, 5 years. It might fail after 5 years also, right? And we have a lot of such examples where the connection actually has failed after 3-4 years or 5 years of the service of the anchor. This also is a video where the connection is subjected to wind load, and at the time of designing we have not considered that thing. So what happened? Let me show you a video for that. So you can see yeah, I'm sorry to share this video. It might be disturbing for some of us, but then it was important to show the importance of these connections. That's why I have actually shown this video, right? So my question is then, would you like to live in these kind of building, or would you like to invest your money in these kind of projects where the connections are not designed as per the design guidelines? So my answer technically is no. So what are the current method people normally use, right? So in my experience, a lot of time I have seen that people are using these kind of Excel sheets or manual calculation to find out the diameter and the number of anchors. But what happens many times also that people also use thumb rules. Let's say install 10D. If the plate thickness is 10 mm, let's install 16 mm anchor. These kind of thumb rules are also many times people use, right? But then what is the disadvantage of using these things, right? So there is no consistency when you talk about these design method, because in the same organization there are different engineers. If they are using manual calculation, if they miss one small critical step, then the entire calculation might change, right? So it's not simple to design manually, and it's very time consuming. And if you have to get it cross checked with your peer consultant, then also it's very unreliable. Many a times the anchors are underutilized, or it can be overutilized also sometimes, right? Then we have to do the rework if there is a design change, right? And it becomes very time consuming to do the rework on these kind of cases. Yeah, so how can we ensure that the connection which we have designed is safe, and we can also easily verify that? How can we do that? So before going to the actual software, let me also tell you what all are the conditions which we need to keep in mind while selecting a product and while designing that connection. So first of all, we need to see whether the connection needs a seismic performance, whether what is the state of the existing concrete. Is it a old concrete, new concrete, or what is the grade of the existing concrete? Do we need corrosion protection? What is the service life requirement of that connection? Is it 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, or let's say in some cases in infra projects normally it is more than 100 years also, right? So, and also, do we need fire rating? I mean, in today's environment, fire is also very unpredictable, right? And we have seen many instances where fire has occurred and the connection has also failed because the anchors which we have used are not tested for fire. The main structure we design with all the care, right? But when you talk about these secondary connection or the steel connection, there we sometimes unknowingly ignore these facts, right? Then LED certification might be also useful for some of the building, because again, in today's scenario people are moving towards green building. And then we also talk about the loads, whether it is subjected to tension, shear, bending moment, or torsion, what kind of loads are coming. And we also need to know whether the existing concrete on which we are fixing these anchors is actually able to take the load or not. After determining all these conditions, then we have to select the right design guidelines, right? So in some countries people follow European standard, some countries people follow ACI, and in many countries they have their own standards also, right? So it's very important to select the right design standard before actually going to the design of the product itself. And apart from that, we also have some international guidelines which talks about dynamic loading, seismic, fatigue, and shock. So these are the guidelines which are available for designing the connections in those conditions also. So when we design the anchor, there are certain things which we can get as an output from the design. First thing is the type of the anchor, whether we need to use chemical, mechanical, what is the diameter of the anchor, what is the embedment depth, how many number of anchors we need, and the layout of the anchor. Apart from that, we can also check for fire and corrosion, right? While designing, when we are designing the anchor, these are the failure conditions which we normally check in tension and shear. So we check for the steel failure, whether the steel element is capable enough to take the load or not. In case of mechanical anchor, we check for pull-out failure. The working principle of the anchor should be intact. Then we check for concrete breakout. This type of cone should not form, right? Then we check the bond strength of the chemical anchor in case of chemical. Then we talk about the splitting also. The concrete should not get splitted while using two anchor very close to each other. Then in shear, we also talk about the steel failure again in shear. We talk about the edge breakout, and then we also talk about the pry-out failure in case of shear. So all these failure mode I will show you in the software also, because we are calculating the design resistance for all these kind of different failure in the software. Now there are certain factors which actually influence the overall capacity of the particular connection. To name a few, spacing is one of the biggest criteria. Then the edge distance, the grade of the concrete, right? These are the main criteria which actually influence the overall capacity of the connection largely, right? Apart from that, obviously torquing of the anchor, temperature, corrosion, failure, all these are also the condition which affects the overall performance, right? So we need to also consider these things while designing. So when we design the anchor, so we actually break down the entire connection into two. We resolve the forces into tension and shear. Then we check for tension the steel. We check concrete, three type of failure. We find out the least design resistance, and then similar thing we do in shear, and we then check whether this connection, if both tension and shear are acting together, what will happen to that connection. So we do the check for combination as well, right? So all these conditions, as I've said, if you go and do the hand calculation, it's very time consuming, and many a times it can lead to errors also, because one small safety factor, if you miss, the entire design will get impacted because of that, right? So with this, let me now take you to PROFIS Engineering. Before I go there, let me also show you how to gain the access to the software. So this is the web page address. I request not to Google it, just put this in the browser, which is profisengineering.hilti.com. The moment you plug in, this kind of web page will get displayed on your screen. You click on register now. A small screen will again pop up where it will ask for your working email ID. You can create any password of your choice. Whatever password you want to keep, you can keep it. Then in the country of residence, I'll request you to select Myanmar, because I mean, if you are joining from, let's say, Myanmar, Cambodia, I mean, this is required to be Myanmar only, because we have not launched the software as of now in Cambodia. So if you select Cambodia, you might not get the access to the software. People joining from Maldives and Brunei, my request is for Maldives, you can select Sri Lanka as your nearest country. And for Brunei, again, you have to use Myanmar to gain the access. If you select any other country, you might not get the access for PROFIS Engineering. Right? So my humble request, while registering, please make sure of it. Then once you are done with that, there is an email which will go to your this working email address with a 6-digit one-time password. You put in that one-time password, and then you are good to go. The software will, I mean, the page will redirect you to this particular page where you can access all these things. Now let me take you to PROFIS Engineering web page. Sanchit, just let me know once the screen is visible. Is it visible, Sanchit?
Yeah, it's visible. It's visible.
Okay, good. So since I already have my login, so I will simply use my login here. Okay. Okay, so once you put that one-time password, this is the page on which you will land, right? And you will see these 4 templates in front of you. So first template talks about the anchoring to concrete. So if you have to design a base plate on the concrete structure, then this is the tab which you have to select. If you want to design the same connection for brick masonry, this is the tab which you have to select. And other 2 tabs are for designing the post-install rebar connection. I am not talking about these 2 today. We will have another webinar in coming months. There we will talk about these 2 connection in detail. So let's talk about anchoring to concrete here. Now, before you go in that, I mean, if you want to change the design guideline, right now you can see by default is EN. If you want to change the design guidelines, just go to settings. There you have to find this anchoring to concrete. And over here, you can select the design guidelines which you want to use. So by default, there are certain guidelines which are placed in the software. So you have ACI, and apart from ACI, we have some other local guidelines also which some countries follow. So we have Russian, we have Thai, we have New Zealand, Hong Kong. If your project happen to be any of these countries, then you can select these standards as well. Yeah, so once you are done with that, you just click on save, and we are then good to go. So you just click on anchoring to concrete, and this is the template which you will see by default. So first step is to define the boundary condition of the concrete. That means you have to define what is the surface on which you are mounting these base plate. Is it a beam, column, slab? What is that, right? For example, let me consider a base plate on top of a slab, right? So if I have to mount that, then and the slab is, I mean, the connection is actually in the center of the slab, so I have enough edge distance around it. So what I can do is I can go on this corner. You can see this red color indication. You do the double click, and the concrete will become infinite on all the four edges. If you have to go back, you again go here and you double click, and you will get the edges again, right? And then from here you can define the edge distance as well. Yeah, once you are done with that, then you can define the thickness. Let's say my slab is 200 mm thick, so I'll put 200. Then the next step is to define the loads, how much load are acting on the base plate. Let's say I have 10 kilonewton tension, 10 kilonewton shear in x direction, and similar I have in y direction also. There are two ways to put the loads. First is you can click directly over here and put it. Second is you can put the loads from this tab down below, right? And if you have multiple load combination, then also you can add that combination. Let's say I input custom load. So there is another tab which will open. Let's say in this case I have 10 kilonewton bending moment. So I'll put 10 kilonewton. I'll select add. Right, so you see now there are two load combination which the software will calculate. So similarly, if you have more than two also, you can actually add those combination manually from here, or you can add all the load combination from the spreadsheet. You can copy it and paste it over here, right? So all the combination will get automatically embedded in the software, and the software will check for all the load combination, and it will give you the result for the decisive combination. Let's say in combination 1 it is only getting utilized 18%, but in combination 2 the connection is getting utilized by 100%. So that is how you will get the result. Next step is you have to define the grade of the concrete also. So on the left hand side there is a tab for base material. You go on base material, select whether the concrete is cracked or uncracked, and then here you can define the grade of the existing concrete, right? Now for example, you have customized the grade at your job site and you don't find it pre-fitted here, then you just select on custom. These two tabs will open up for you. Now if you want to put the cylindrical strength, you can put cylindrical strength. If you want to put cubical, you can put cubical as well, right? Apart from that, you can also put the short-term and long-term temperature range through which you think the connection can be subjected to, right? Based on that, the product selection will happen automatically. Then from this area also, you can define the thickness, edges, or everything from here as well. So there are two ways. First is directly from the screen. Second is from this tab, right? Apart from that, you can also define the installation condition, whether you are drilling hammer with the hammer drill bit, or you are drilling a core drilled hole, or you are drilling core drilling with roughening, or you are drilling a safe set. So drilling method you define here. Then you define the hole type, whether it is dry, water saturated, water filled, or submerged. Based on that, the product will automatically change again, right? Then in case of mechanical anchor, there are torquing methods also available. So if you are doing a manual torquing, you can select this. If you are using the Hilti's automatic torquing tool, then you can select adaptive torquing tool from this particular tab. Once you are done with this, then the second tab is the reinforcement. Here, if you want to put the reinforcement also, which you should, which if you think you know, then you can go to this tab and you can put the reinforcement layout also. But for that, you need to change the design guidelines. So for doing that, you just go to this load section. Here, by default, it is ETAG based. From here, you can select EN1992 Part 4, which is the latest guidelines, which gives us the flexibility to utilize the existing reinforcement also. So you select this, again go back to here, and from here you can define the diameter and the spacing and all those things in the existing concrete member. Let's say it is 10 mm, 12 mm, what is the strength of steel you have used, what is the spacing, and how much the rebar is utilized currently, right? So bottom layer, top layer, everything you can define from here, right? Let me go back for simplicity. Let me not use this. Okay, apart from that, then you can go to the anchor plate. If you want to change the dimension of the base plate, then you can go in this section. You have by default rectangle plate, circular, diamond shape. All these are by default located here. But if you want the base plate to be of your own choice, then you can go here. You just simply click on add node, and wherever you want to put a node, you can just simply put the nodes, right? So let's say I want to put it in a hexagonal shape. So, oh, sorry. So this is how you can change the orientation of the base plate as well, right? So, and if you want to go back, you just have to select this undo button, and the plate will go back to the original shape. From here, you can also define the dimension, length, breadth, and thickness of the base plate, and you can define it directly on the display as well. Let's say I want to keep it 200 by 200, so I'll simply put 200 by 200 here, right? And then anchor spacing also you can define directly from here, say 150 by 150, right? And then material also, if you want to define the material of the base plate, you can go to this section. There are pre-treated values, and if you want to customize it, just go to custom. All these sections will open up for you. You put the values based on the material which you are using, and just click on apply, right? Apart from that, there are, in certain cases, you might also need to create a standoff between the base plate and the concrete member. So what you can do is you can just click on this. There are pre-feeded standoff combination from which you can select. Let's say you are using a combination with grout. So you just select this, and from here you can define the thickness of the grouting material, and you can also define the compressive strength of the grouting material. So let me go back. Then this is the section from where you can select the anchor. Yeah, by default it is selecting the chemical anchor, but if you want to select the mechanical anchor, you go to this section, and from here you can see which all anchors are already available in the portfolio, right? So let's say we have HST3 mechanical anchor. I'll select this, right? After that, then you can define the profile also on the base plate. So this is the section where you can see the by default profile, and if you want to change the design guideline of the profile also, you can select anything from here. Let's say European, and I have rectangle hollow. So you see the profile will change like this, and from here you can change the dimension of the profile. Let's say I want for example 76, then the profile size will automatically change. And if I have my own custom profile, then I'll go back here, I can select the custom, and these section will open up, and I can put whatever value I want. This is the section from where you can define the eccentricity of the profile, which is also very important when you're designing a connection, because if your profile is not at the center of the base plate, and if it is let's say towards the edge, right, then the load distribution on the anchor will also change significantly. So it's very important to place the profile exactly where you want it to be, so that the distribution of the forces can also be calculated in the similar fashion. Yeah, Then the last tab is the load tab, where you can actually select whether you want to design the connection for static, seismic, fatigue, or fire. These are the things which you can select from here, and then you can do the design calculation. And this is the tab where you can do the base plate rigidity check also. So there are three things. By default, the software consider that your base plate is rigid. Second option is to check the rigidity of the base plate. The software can give you an overall idea whether the base plate which you have selected is sufficient enough. Sufficient enough to transfer the load safely or not. Third option is CBFEM, which is not available as of now in our part of the world. So once it is active, then I can come back again and I can explain it to you. Right. So once you are done with this, on the right hand side, you can see the design optimization of your anchor. Right. So you can see this particular connection is getting utilized by 205% in concrete breakout and pull out. That means your connection will fail. Right. So that's how you can define it. So what you can do is, since concrete breakout is happening, there are two things we can do. We can either increase the spacing or we can increase the embedment depth. So let's see, let's go back here. Let me check whether I can increase the embedment depth or not. So I can go maximum up to 120 mm, but still there is concrete breakout failure which is happening. So what I can do is I can increase the spacing a little bit. Let's say I'll go back to 200 and this was 180. Similarly, I can go back here, 250, and this also 180. Yeah, so still my design is not qualifying. So what I can do is I can try to increase the diameter. Let's say 16 also it is not passing. So what I can do, let me check whether this design gets qualified with chemical anchor or not. We go back, I'll select 16 mm. Yes, my anchor design is getting qualified now, and I am getting 100% utilization in concrete breakout. Let me see, can I optimize it? So let me select 12 mm. Yes, I can still optimize it. Now my steel of the anchor is getting utilized by almost 89%, and the concrete breakout is 100%. So that's how you can optimize the overall design, and you can see the decisive is bending moment. The normal tension shear, it is only getting utilized by 18%, but the decisive combination for us is the bending moment which is active. So that's how you can define. Now let me also show you the base plate check. So the moment you select this, you will get a calculate tab option over here. I'll select this, and the software will do some iteration to check whether the base plate is rigid enough or not. Yeah, so once the analysis is done, this is how you can actually get the result. So by default, the load distribution and the stresses should be like that if the plate is rigid enough, but in our case, this is how the load distribution and the deflection is happening. So you see, in our case, if I'm using 10 mm plate, then the deflection is almost around 590 mm. In ideal case, it should be 0.2 mm. That means my connection will eventually fail if I am using this thickness of the base plate. So this will give you a tentative idea whether the base plate which you have selected is rigid enough or not. Based on that, you can actually change the dimensions also. Let's say, let me try 16 mm over here, right? And profile also, let me go back to my original profile. So yeah, let me select ISMB. Yeah, and the size is, let's say, 200, right? And then I'll just click on select. Yeah, now you can see the rigidity ideally was 2. Now I can get up to 0.7 mm. If I'm satisfied with this deflection, I will just simply click on confirm, right? If there is any error, the software will give you the error and you can click on OK. So now you see, earlier, if I was not checking the rigidity of the base plate, my anchor utilization was almost 89% in steel, and 100% in concrete breakout. But in the new case, when I am checking the rigidity also, you can see this connection is failing, right? So this is the impact of the base plate on the overall design of the anchor. So while you are designing the anchor, it's very important also for us to check the rigidity of the base plate, so that plate doesn't fail and it doesn't give the ununiform stresses on the anchors also. Let me go back to the original thing. Now if you are okay with this design, then the next step is to create the report. You just click on the report, and if you want to put any comments, you can actually put your comments over here. Let's say if you want to define the connection type, you can define that. If you want to put anything in the notes, you can put that, and you just click on save and generate. Yeah, once you are done with this, there is a almost 11 pages report, which 9 pages report, which you will see. So first page will talk about the product which you have used, the picture of that, item number, the embedment depth, the ETS certification number, based on which the product is qualified to be used for this particular connection, the design method which you have used, dimension of the base plate, and then you will get the orientation. And from page number 2 onwards, you will get the detailed calculation. So combination 2 was our decisive combination. That's why it is highlighted in this color, right? And then from page number 3 onwards, you will get the detailed calculation of all the parameters which I have shown you in the software, the steel strength, pull out, breakout, splitting, and you will get the reference number also. So if you want to check and go back in the design guideline, you can easily refer to the equation, and you can check whether the software has done the right calculation or not. So everywhere, all the formulas, you can get the equation number also. Yeah, once you are satisfied with this, then you can go ahead with the connection design. And then the next step is you can also export this PE file. Let's say if you want to send it to the peer reviewer, so you can just click on this file. The .pe file will get generated, and that file you can send it to the your colleague or peer reviewer, and he can simply drag it and drop it in his login, and he can see what designs you have done. Then you can export the 3D model of your anchors. You can also do the quantity calculation in the software. You can also develop the specification text for the design which you have done. Right. Apart from that, there are certain other things also. Since this software is completely cloud-based, you don't have to worry about saving the design files every time on your desktop. By default, it will get saved automatically on the folder which you have selected. Let's say I want to create a new folder for the project. So you can just click new, and these kind of projects you can create in your login ID, which will stay there till the time you want it. And you can just simply drag and drop these design report in the specific project folder. So that's how you can organize these files, so that whenever you need it, you can easily get it. Yeah, this is about the software. Let me go back to the slides, and then we can take the question answers also. So once you are done with the designing, the next step is the installation. Now in installation, the first step is to identify the safe drilling areas. So if you don't identify that, then what will happen is, instead of drilling, let's say 10 holes, you end up drilling 20 holes like this. So the easiest thing which you can do is to use a scanner. Sanchit, please let me know if the audio is there.
No, the audio isn't.
Okay.
Audible.
Let me again share my screen. It should come now.
Yeah, it's audible now.
Thank you. So with this tool, you can identify the safe drilling location in the concrete, and then you can start with drilling the hole. Now, while drilling the hole, if you are installing a chemical anchor, or for that matter, if you are installing mechanical anchor also, cleaning of the hole is also very important. If you don't clean the hole properly, then you will not get the required bond strength in case of chemical anchor, right? So what I have done is, this is the graph which shows if you are cleaning the hole properly, this is what you get as the ultimate capacity. But if you are not cleaning the hole, this is the performance of the anchor. So in order to avoid such situation, we have also introduced a very innovative tool which we call as safe set. So this is a hollow drill bit which gets attached with your normal drill machine, and a vacuum pump is also attached at the back of the drill bit. So at the time of drilling itself, it sucks out the entire dust and make sure that the drill hole is clean enough to actually achieve the desired load capacity of the chemical. Right, let me show you a small video for that as well. Yeah, this is how you can use this safe set technology, and I mean, you can save the unproductive labor in cleaning the hole, and at the same time you can also save, stay safe, and keep, there will be a peace of mind that the hole is cleaned properly and the load will be as per the design which you have done. Apart from that, we can also provide you engineering service, like we have dedicated field engineer in all our lead markets. It might not be there in Brunei and Maldives, but we will have in Myanmar and Cambodia. So then we have the software is available at your disposal, which you can use at any given point of time. We can customize the webinar based on your demand, and we can do that. We can do the site demonstration to show the labor how to install the product. We can give you the pull-out test for checking the workmanship. Again, I'm repeating this. It is for checking the workmanship. It is not for testing the product. Then we can also help you in creating the technical submittals if you want to code for any project of yours. Right. Apart from that, I just wanted to introduce one website which is askhilti.sg. This is a platform which we have created where we keep on posting a lot of technical contents, and we keep on doing the live webinars also on this platform. So whenever you get time, please go on and register yourself on this website so that you keep getting the latest update on the technologies and the articles which we keep on publishing on this page. Apart from that, you can also post your that, and if let's say there is someone else also who knows the answer, that guy can also answer, and you can also give the answer to the question asked by someone else. So it's kind of a community where you can share the knowledge, right? Talking about the contact points with Hilti, so we have dedicated account manager. You have regional support in terms of just right, and the next webinar, as I have told you, we will also post it on our LinkedIn pages. So please follow the LinkedIn pages to get the latest update about the products and the upcoming webinars. With this, I now open the stage for question answers if we have any. Sanchit, do we have questions?
Let me just check. Somebody has asked us whether we would be sharing this PPT deck with them.
So to answer this, you will get a recording of this complete webinar, right, Sanchit?
Yes, they would be getting. They need to just fill the feedback form, which we have already shared in the chat. And as soon as they fill, they would be receiving the recording and the certificate of attendance also.
Perfect.
So somebody who's reached out to us asking that can you share that website details for further seminar?
For this Ask Hilti, or which one
I
we are
think
talking
he's
about?
referring to Ask Hilti.
Okay, so I believe you can type it in the chat box. It's askhilti.sg.
Okay.
Let me also type in. Problem with your internet. Any other questions, Sanchit?
No, we just have. Yeah, so we are getting questions. Just allow me a minute. So someone is
Sure,
asking,
no
his
problem.
website is free or do we have to pay for calculation?
No, the software is completely free of cost. The standard version which I have shown you, it's free of cost for everyone.
Okay, the next question that we have is what is the recommendation for drill type in common use for normal workers at the job site?
So, I mean, normally we recommend to use hammer drill bits because it then doesn't disturb your reinforcement inside the concrete. But in certain cases, if you need the anchor to be precise at the same location, in that cases you can use the coring method also. So, only disadvantage is if you are using a core bit, then it will also cut the reinforcement which is present inside the concrete. So in order to avoid that, you can use the scanner to identify the safe drilling location, and then you can use the hammer drill bit.
Okay, so
I hope I am
we
able
would
to answer.
just request you to fill the feedback form. You must have just got a prompt. If once you click in the feedback form, you would go on a forms page. You can just give us a feedback on all the questions that we have asked, and we would be pulling out the data from that, and we would be sending you the recording and the certificate of attendance. So I think from question side, I mean, if anybody has a question, you can just write to us on in the chat box. We will just take it up.
I believe we overshot the time by 3 minutes. Then we want to test. Okay. I mean, the question is, if you already done the installation of post-install rebar, and then you just want to test. So, I mean, to answer this question, the testing will only be for workmanship. You will not be able to identify whether that uh, rebar is sufficient enough to take the loads or not. That is my suggestion. I have already explained this in my presentation. And when we do the rebar presentation, there also I will again explain these things.
So let me take on the questions we are getting now. Will there be any issue if we leave any free space gap between concrete and metal, like media
Yes,
towers?
so to answer this, if you leave a space between your base plate and the concrete, then there will be a lever arm which will get generated for the anchor. And I mean, anchors are, I mean, the steel is good in tension, but when you subject the same anchor to shear, the capacity becomes half. So it's very important, if you are having an actual gap between the base plate and the concrete, then you should design the anchor for that, and our software gives you that flexibility also. Right, so you just check whether the diameter you have selected is sufficient enough for that gap or not.
Okay, so the next question that we have is, so how many percent of force should we apply to test?
Okay, so I mean, if I understand it correctly, you're talking about the software. So if you are designing in the software, we recommend to utilize at least from 95 to 100% of the utilization. If you are utilizing that much, that means your anchor is optimum utilized. If it is below 80%, then your anchor connection is underutilized. That means you are incurring extra cost.
The next one that we have is any separate rebar and chemical material for using seashore areas like Maldives?
Yes, so I mean, if it is a highly corrosive environment, then we have stainless steel anchor in the portfolio. But at the same time, if you want to use a underwater application, then RE500 V4 is the chemical which we have in the portfolio, which you can use for certain applications.
What is your recommendation for re-drilling and doing chemical anchoring at safe hole?
Okay, I'm not sure what you want. What is the let's say gist of the question? But what I understand is, let's say if you already have a hole and you want to re-drill and put a new anchor. So let's say the existing anchor diameter is 12 mm. So in order to remove that, you have to at least do 14 or 16 mm, right? So if you are using a 16 mm core drilling, then you will not be able to use a 12 mm anchor again in that. So you have to increase the diameter also of the anchor. So that is the only thing which you have to keep in mind, if I understand your question correctly.
So the second last question for the day is, so will there be any issue if we refill the free space gap that left later?
So if you're talking about the gap between the base plate, you need to fill it, but then at the same time you have to check it in the software also whether your steel is getting qualified for that gap or not. Right? If your steel is not getting qualified, then my recommendation will be to increase the diameter or increase the number of anchor. That you can easily see in the software.
So the last question that we have from this session is, can we make a PDF file of design calculations in PROFIS design website?
Yes, I have shown you this. If you have missed it, then let me share it again. So the whole purpose of the software is to get the complete design output. So let me again open this file. Right, so once you are satisfied and your calculation is within range, you can just click on this create report, and from here you can generate the PDF. Right, so I have shown you the PDF also. This is how the PDF design calculation looks like. So it's almost 9-page report which you will get from the software. Now since I have opened the software, let me also share that standoff case. So this is how, I mean, from this plate section, you can access to the standoff case. So you can see in the normal condition, let me select this particular load combination. So in the normal condition, my anchor is getting utilized by 14%. In the same case, if I, let's say, apply the standoff, now you see the utilization went up to 152% in shear, right? Let me again go back and show it to you. So in shear, earlier it was only 18%. So my steel is getting utilized by only 18%. But the moment I apply the standoff, the same steel is now getting utilized by 152%. Why this happens is because of the lever arm which gets created between the plate and the concrete. And since the lever arm gives the shear force on the rod, the strength of the rod is reduced to 50% in case of shear. That's why the utilization percentage suddenly increase. Now for these cases, you only have one option, is to either increase the grade of the rod, which you can do easily from here. By default it is 5.8. You can either select 8.8 and you can decrease the utilization, or second option is to increase the diameter. So these are the two options which you can select for these lever arm cases. Okay.
So we do have more questions. Do we need to take, or shall we ask them to?
Okay, so we have already overshot the time by 10 minutes. So my request is, please fill the feedback form and put your questions also in that feedback form. We will answer those questions as soon as possible. Yeah, with this, I thank you very much for your time. I mean, investing the 1 hour time in the early morning is also not very easy for the designers like you. You also have a lot of work to do. But thank you so much for attending the webinar. And please like and comment on our LinkedIn pages. We will keep on posting the next webinars also on our LinkedIn pages so that you get the latest update on the next upcoming webinars and the technologies which we launch in the market. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you everyone for joining in, and we will be posting about everything on our LinkedIn page. Please do follow our LinkedIn pages. Thank you, and you would be receiving your certificates shortly. Thank you.